Welcome to the Come Rule podcast. I am your humble narrator. My name is Danny, and yes, we're still here. We're still podcasting, and I am still definitely trying to make this happen and trying to create content. This is something that I really wanted to get into and talk about today. I'm inspired by a few things, some good, some sad, and as far as creating something. I hope you guys have been well. So far so good for this year for me. A lot of strikes, a lot of gutters, but you know what? I can't complain. It could be a lot worse, unfortunately, and that's the mentality that I'm taking. Some may say that it might not be the healthiest frame of mind, but at the same time, when it's relative and put in perspective, I'm definitely doing a lot better than most people out there with all this things happening in the world without trying to get into such a downer mood opening. Well, actually, speaking of which, let's do this. Let me open up with this. So some of you may know, some of you may not know. I don't know if I even talked about it too much on the podcast a while ago, but it has been a year since my mom passed away. And what we're doing, we're leaving on tonight, as a matter of fact. We're leaving on the red eye down south to essentially place my mom's remains in its final resting place down in the family plot and her old hometown. And I was about to say it's a bittersweet moment, but there's not too much on the sweet end about that. I do wish that there were better. I had been planning to go back and visit the old hometown, and I've been meaning to do that. I've been intended to do that, but unfortunately, the circumstances haven't come up to where I'm able to do that. And unfortunately, the way that I'm going back and meeting some people and cousins and family members is not under the best circumstances. So I'm kind of torn about that. It's weird trying to make contact with people that you haven't spoken to in over 20 years. And that's something that hit me, is like I haven't spoken to a lot of these people in over 20 years, almost 20 years. The last time I was down there was in 2004. And some of you may have seen the photographs that I'm putting up from that trip. And that was a trip to go down there to sort of finalize some things and just meet my dad's parents, my grandparents from my dad's side. Not necessarily give them the news because they already had that, but just go down there and visit with them and sort of finalize some things. So, yes, even that trip, again, down there, was weird, and again, it should have been made under better circumstances, but life gets in the way sometimes, and I wasn't able to do that. And yeah, the next time that I'm down there is in fact a visit because my mom passed away, so it's not the best time to be visiting, I guess, but as the kids say, it is what it is. We're going down there. And the last time I was down there, I did, again, with the photographs that I took, I did take advantage and decided to shoot a lot of photographs. But on purpose, I didn't make it sort of it was just a matter of circumstance and a project that I wanted to do as far as taking pictures of Mexico at the time. And I didn't in any way really tie up too much with what it meant emotionally with the death of my father at that time. And it very much could have. There's a few pictures, of course, there that when we take a look at his house and we take a look at his old house and some of the cousins out there and his old ranch, those are definitely emotional and have some sort of a little more weight to them than just personal perspective on something or a creative view on something. And so I didn't want to go down there doing that. And this time around, I decided that I was basically going to have a better balance to where I am bringing a gear down there to photograph. I'm not bringing any film down there. Not this time around. I think I want to make this some sort of prep project, or even as the people say in the scouting or in the movie industry, like scout locations and scouting for trips, but more of a way to prepare myself to see what I can take the next time I'm down there, because I definitely want to go down there and sort of make up for the reasons that I've been absent down there for so long. And, you know, truth be told, I don't want to air my dirty laundry out here, but I don't get along with all my relatives down there. And that's one of the things that, you know, it's not that there's a big animosity. It's just the way some of their behavior is just a little off towards my brother and my brother and me and my family and I. So I just want to avoid drama. But given that, there's still a few people that I really love to visit, and they live in some pretty cool places that I'd like to document and make portraits of and make photographs of, both video and film. And in this case, actually add some audio into it, because as I've been working on more and more in the past year, is ambient sound and field recordings, or whatever you call them, out there, and just getting more of nature sound and incorporating a better sound into the photography side of it, whether it is a still photography or moving pictures, you know, film. So I am taking a little bit of gear down there, and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, because I am fascinated by shitty projects, and let me explain that to you. So me and a couple of friends, for whatever reason, and apparently I don't know if this is a thing, and this might be just something between my friends. A couple of friends of mine love watching shitty movies and shitty TV shows because they entertain us. They make us laugh in a different way than it's intended. And I'm not trying to completely shit on those shows, because I'll come back to that in a second, and completely shitting on shitty content. I love watching, and as of late, I've taken a new, more of a, I'd say like a more kindling of a passion for Mexican cinema, but during the 70s and 80s, and I'll go into that in a second. But I have a couple of friends that we just, for whatever reason, love watching crap shows. And I think there's some of you out there, and it might be divided to where, and I think it might have been an old Seinfeld episode, where you go to a movie, and if it's a bad movie, some of us walk out, but some of us have to stay to the end. No matter how bad the movie is, once you start it, you have to watch the whole thing. Now, with streaming services, I'm for watching the whole thing. Now, with streaming services and digital media, it might take me a couple of days to go through the whole thing. I was watching this movie the other day. It was just absolutely terrible. This movie was made in the 90s, and it was just about some, let's just say, a wannabe Flash Gordon set in a dystopian future where there were bikini girls fighting. It was just an absolute mess, but I liked it. And it turns out that there are a lot of projects like that you can find on Amazon. And Amazon, the beautiful thing about Amazon, it goes, well, if you like this, then you're going to love this, right? So I go down a couple rabbit holes. And the thing is, like, man, I watched that maybe 20 minutes at a time. And it took me a couple of nights to finish it, but I did. And I'm glad that I did. I'm not sure, only because, again, I have to take a look at these projects under a different sort of light. All right. So let me get into the history of Mexican cinema. And real quick, this is real quick. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Mexican cinema was legit. It was on par with American cinema. It's called the golden age of Mexican cinema. It's beautiful. A lot of decent acting, great singing, funny stuff came out of there. And then when you slowly start transitioning from the 60s into the 70s, there's a big fall off in production and the production quality. And the reason for that is somewhere along the line, the government was helping, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but more or less the the financial aid that the government was providing to the cinemas was falling short because of economic times, and the movies had to more or less be produced independently. So you get all these movies that came out even in the beginning of the 90s too, where in the 70s and 80s, they are very low production. And some of us, we have a name for those. We call them churros. Un churro. But the thing is that at one point, when it's all you have to be entertained as a nation, well, you go to the movie theaters and you still go see these movies, right? And the thing is that it's like you can have one of something, but you can't have all three. Like, you can have good production but bad acting, or you can have great cinematography in some way, but you can't have good acting. And good acting, it seems to be something that was kind of constant. You know, in the land of the telenovelas and their high production level at that, some of the actors can transition very well to something that's not as overdramatic, and some of them, find their place in the telenovela world, right? I think one of the biggest, there's a couple big actors, but obviously I think the biggest actor that came out of Mexico's telenovela circuit and did something more or less great here is Salma Hayek. And I love Salma Hayek. Anyway, that's another story. But my point is, overall, that the quality wasn't there, but they still made them. It's a great independent film. And, that independent film, because of the technology that we have, it doesn't hold up in anything other as far as production quality, because with the gear that I have, the shitty cameras that I have, and, my knowledge of lighting, I can still make a movie that's better in quality as far as visuals go. That doesn't mean I know anything about production, direction, acting. I'm just saying that the quote-unquote, the equivalent of the film stock and the lighting would be way better than what they were doing back then. I can probably make the movie just as well as they can with the two little cameras that I have, and forget about it, right? So, onto there's these things onto like regular people that make content like these. I'm sure some of you guys follow certain channels, and it's usually like a couple and their quote unquote adventures throughout the day. Someone's always holding a camera one way or another. Either it's on an iPhone or they buy a little point and shoot type camera. They never buy like big, huge, RE sort of big cameras to make movies, right? Nothing like 8K fucking cameras. It's all the little $1,000 point and shoot cameras that shoot very high quality stuff. They just don't shoot forever in a day, but they don't need that. Or in a lot of these things, they shoot their phone. And the more and more that I look at before I get into that, I am a proponent of shooting your movies sideways in the landscape mode. I don't like looking at stuff up and down, but the problem is that everybody looks at their phone up and down. And man, it's just as far as photography and film, things with the size of the screens sideways is just a lot of real estate that goes to waste when you shoot up and down. Anyway, that's another story. A lot of the couples and a lot of the people that create content get that. So what they do is they actually either make one version and are able to cut it up so that it's an up and down version so that they can more or less draw you into the real deal. That seems to be the thing now where, I don't do TikTok. That's the thing. I don't do TikTok. I'm trying to do better with the Instagram and the Twitter, but YouTube is the platform I like looking to, because you can, what they're doing now, I guess, and I might be out of the loop, so they've probably been doing this for a while, but at least on YouTube now allows you to do shorts, a lot like TikTok, something under a minute and a half, I think. And what happens is, like, you can use that as a trailer to your full-length film, which would be over a minute and a half, anywhere from a minute and a half to however long the thing is. And it works where your project is. And it works very well for podcasts, to where you can put a highlight of your podcast up. It's easier to make now, and then put that up everywhere, and then have people go onto your YouTube and watch the full podcast if they want to do that, as opposed to listening to it on your regular podcast platform. The quality is there as far as making it. And of course, what we miss out on is acting and a little bit of production value. Now, a lot of these couples things or people that create content, whatever the content creator thing is, they're staged, right? And the one that I hate the most, and I think I've spoken about this before, is the people that go out and quote unquote do a good deed, but they make sure that the camera's rolling every time they do it, to where I become suspect of, one, whether the good deed is actually being done, or two, that everyone involved is not an actor, to where I think that, I'm very suspicious of that. And there's a lot of things that happen, that there's a lot of content out there that I'm just very suspicious of, like, wow, the camera just happens to be turned on in the right direction at that precise moment. If you notice that there are very little craziness involved when the camera's rolling, where it looks like completely out of the ordinary, there's very little of that compared to people that just happen to be at the right place at the right time every single time. It's weird how that is. But yes, there's I'll get to this in a second too, but I don't believe everything that they say is true, or that they're doing is based on reality or something like that. I take it for entertainment value, okay? And move over to and now moving on over to these quote-unquote telenovela-type channels that are pumping up all over my feed. And I haven't found any really in English. The most ridiculous I found in English is, as far as like a soap opera sort of thing, is these people live in a house and they all dress up like the fast food characters. There's Rhonda is dressed as a young, voluptuous young lady dressed up as Ronald McDonald, and there's Burger King, Wendy, and some of the other Jack in the Box, and then some of the other more obscure characters that are quote unquote living in this house, and there's whatever drama ensues they make and whatever shorts they make, and it's funny. It's all supposed to be hilarious. It's all mostly shot on an iPhone, it looks like, and very low level production. The highest level production actually is Rhonda's makeup, which is, I think, pretty cool. She dresses up head to toe like Ronald McDonald, and her clown makeup I think is on point. But everybody's costumes are pretty cool. That's the highest end of or level of production that they have. So that's funny. That's the one I've been looking at in English. There's a couple other people that make content, but it's all to be funny. And basically, they have the phone in their face the entire time. A couple's fake fighting sort of thing. I think it's funny. Another couple that I see is where the husband likes going to these restaurants, and he makes a big, dramatic, ridiculous affair if the food is really good, and you guys see similar things as well, where people who constantly create content are making, and they seem to follow a certain formula. The other big content out there that's low budget, that is basically a mass consumption, is the people's reactions to other people's videos. And I personally hate the ones of the people that are always pointing to the top of their head. I don't know why that's a thing. But anyway, these Mexican, well, they're actually not just Mexican. They're the ones I've seen are from Ecuador. Argentina is one. Mexico makes a few, of course. And the other one, I believe it's Colombia. I'm pretty sure it's Colombia. They make these short telenovelas. And what it is basically they come up with these ridiculous stories. And the most common one is the mistaken identity one, where someone who's stuck up is basically going into a job interview. They run into the janitor, quote unquote, sweeping the floor before getting ready for the interview. and the quote unquote person trying to get the job tries to belittles the person, calls them trash, get out the way, humiliates them in some way, and then goes into the waiting room to get ready for the interview. And then lo and behold, when they finally step into the office to get interviewed, it was the person sweeping the floor, the janitor. And it's like, see what happens when you're an evil person. You don't get the job. You never know who you're running into. You should always be nice, right? That's the most common one. And of course, there's the other one where the cheating husband, cheating wife, mistreating people. And there's other bunch of little side stories. Now, these are, given with the technology that we have today, the production level is terrible. It's you can more or less tell that it's not very expensive equipment. It's either shot on an iPhone or on a very inexpensive point and shoot. The problem is that there's very little cinematography going on as far as the technical aspect of it, as far as framing, as far as lighting goes, or anything like that. The audio is actually a lot to be desired in some cases as well, too, to where not everyone is mic'd up properly, or there's no boom operator or sound operator involved. And it's very, the sound just, it's uncontrolled for the most part. Let's just say, I don't know the technical term for it here. So I'm not one to judge completely on it. I'm just seeing what I see. And the few times that they do have, because now you can record yourself with a lav mic, right? And you can just record it directly into your cell phone and then give whoever the editor is all the sound and all the video, and then they're in charge of syncing everything up, which isn't really that big a deal given, the software and the technology that's available today. So they do mic themselves up, but they don't do a good job of hiding the microphone sometimes, to where it's just as simple as putting the mic under the shirt or under the dress, and they just have it out and about, and it looks kind of weird. So little details like that are like what I love, actually, and they'll learn. I think this is the thing, is that we have a certain generation of filmmakers right now that are still learning how to make movies, much like people that are making movies before we're doing. And I think that there might be a few people that came out of these old like 60s, 70s, and 80s movies where they are decent filmmakers now. And you look at some, there's very few directors who out the gate were doing amazing work. The Tarantino and Scorsese of the world are few and far between. And I'm sure your favorite director started off with a bang as well, if you dig that. But I don't think like a lot of them were making, scoring touchdowns at the beginning or whatever. So, what I love about these things, and here's the thing, and this is what I love about all of these things, is that it's a story to be told, and sometimes it's a good story. Sometimes it's not executed very well, but I've said this once and I've said it again, I am a sucker for a good story. I don't care if it's real or not. Once you put it up to me on a screen, it becomes entertainment. Once you film it and put it up, and in one way, shape, or form, give it production value, whether it's as simple as cutting this and cutting that or trimming it. But once you put it on the internet, to me, it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's just a good story, and it's entertainment value. And the fact that these people, whoever they are, and everyone involved, is just the fact that they're making it is validation enough for me to give them credit as filmmakers, as content makers, to where I don't have to like the content, and I can laugh at the production value of all these things and go, that's pretty shitty. Where in some cases you see and even in the telenovela ones, even when they do have a sound engineer working on there, you can see, I don't know if you've seen those black exploitation movies where you can see the boom mic in the shots. And in some cases, you not only see the boom mic, you see the sound operator, and you see the whole rig setup, which is kind of funny. And, you gotta, even then, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're doing it. And this is what I love, is the fact that the initiative, the cojones, if you will, of going out there and making this content, regardless of what other people think. And to a certain extent, you gotta come into this. I don't know if you guys remember, and there's the old movie, called Bull Durham. It's a movie about baseball. The preface is about baseball, but like any good movie, what's on the surface is just a package of what the context underneath is about. Now, even movies like Spaceballs have a message underneath them that you can grasp as well. Obviously, the more dramatic, like Rocky, right? And Rocky 2, where boxing is used as a huge metaphor for life and this, that, and the other. Insert your favorite sports movie or whatever movie here, right? Bull Durham is no different, to where it talks about a lot of things in life, especially, those of us that are starting to hit the twilight of our careers, or there's a change in our careers or something, and we're supposed to mentor people that are going to more or less replace us, and how we deal with that is a big deal. But one of the key scenes, and that I remember a lot, that I think that applies to a lot of things, is, as the rookie is getting picked up into the big show, into the Hall of Fame career that he's destined to become, the mentor, who unfortunately, despite having the talent to do so, was never lucky enough to get into the next step on a long-term basis, still gives the kid advice. And he tells the kid that you have to play this game with fear and arrogance. And it's baseball is weird like that, to where, yes, this is absolutely true. One of my other favorite quotes as far as baseball goes is that, I believe the guy was Steve Lyons who said this, and I might be misquoting, but one of the secrets, he says, to hitting major league pitching and going up to bat is that you got to go up to the plate feeling sexy. All right. Now, all these things, what these have in common, my point is that you have to go into this with fear and arrogance, to where, you're going to be humble, but you almost got to live in this bubble to where you can't be afraid to fail, and you can't be afraid to look shitty. And this is something that I personally have struggled with for a major part of my life, to where I have, and to today as well, where I am, in most cases, it takes me forever to take that first step to be able to do something that I want to do, because I'm afraid of looking like shit. And the problem is like, that fear is valid, because when you start, you do look like shit for most of the time, right? When you create anything, you always start looking like, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't start. So what these filmmakers are doing is, not only are they not afraid of looking like shit, they are promoting themselves, and they keep doing it. They keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And what's funny is that even in their bubble, what I notice about all these content makers, and I'm sure you guys have noticed it too, is that the amount of views that they get is ridiculous. The amount of likes and comments, that basically interaction that other people have with these content creators is amazing, to where you get enough of them and you are now making money from it. For what? And you can use that money to get better at what it is that you do. And so there are a lot of people that either, one, forgive the short production value on it, or two, and don't care about it, or two, just don't see it. And that's, to me, it's, I remember one of the few things that stuck with me, or one of the things that stuck with me back with my podcast a few years ago, a couple of years ago with Cheney, I don't know if we recorded or not, on air or off air, but he mentioned something that everything's valid. And what happened is it hit me to where the conversation, if I remember correctly, it was something about how, even at that point, was like, are the Kardashians real content? Somewhere along that philosophy line, right? I don't remember the details, but his view was, you know what? Everything's valid. And this is true in the whole, maybe if I just am able to put that in an artistic bubble, even, everything's valid. Even someone who creates art that doesn't know what they're doing versus someone who creates art that's a master at it, while they may not be equal in content or in production quality or maybe even intent, they are both valid pieces of art. That at one point if you were looking at art, you have to give it time to look at it. And you can always learn from these things. And this is what really, I find inspiration in that, in the fact that, and while I am very careful in how I'm wording this, because I don't want to give the vibe off there like, well, if they're doing that shitty of a job, I can't do any worse, so I'm just going to go ahead and try. Because that's definitely not the philosophy that how I'm approaching that, or the reason that they're inspiring me. Although, I don't know, maybe somebody out there can say, well, if they're doing that, fuck that, I can do it too. If you want to go into that, run with it. But I think a lot of us will soon find out of how difficult it is, not just to create content in any form, but to be consistent at it. And to be consistent at, ask any OnlyFans model. It's not just easy to get naked and start putting pictures up. You got to do that every day if you're going to be successful monetarily at this. And again, I specifically say successful in a monetary sense, because if you, as a creator, if you are, looking for success in another way, hey, guess what? It's valid too. And for me, obviously, my success isn't going to be determined by the monetary value. I hope my track record speaks to that, because, I'm still poor and I've been doing this for a long time. But the inspiration I draw from it is just the overall motivation, for lack of a better word. The fact that they're just doing it in the consistency, and they're not doing it with super Netflix approved cameras. Excuse me. And they're just doing it with consumer grade things that come out of, I was going to say Sears. How many of you guys go to Sears and get your cameras? Oh, Lord. Shit, some of us don't even get our camera gear at Best Buy anymore. But anyway, Amazon or, wherever it is you go get your electronics from, it's just right off the shelf. And it's valid. So that's sort of, as far as production quality goes. And so that's where I draw my inspiration from. And one of the things that, I don't know if you follow on the Twitters or on the TikToks, and I don't expect any of you to, so I'll just say, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm making this sort of movie rig. And and movie rig is a very exaggerated term. What I'm doing is just some sort of things that I've built that is going to get decent video and very good audio quality to be able to walk around and make content and be able to put something up and get a long sort of take of a landscape or a seascape or something like that, right? To where the audio comes in, just something that I can learn how to properly get started in making a decent sort of take or film or something like that. So they've inspired me to do that, and I already have all the tools. I just put everything together. I didn't have to go out and buy anything specific other than, everything I had, I already bought. The only thing I ended up buying specifically was just backup cables, just to have, and a new video tripod head. And everything else was very inexpensive. So this is one of the things to where I want to start carrying this around. And while I'm in a situation where I don't want to, I'm not going to be like this influencer travel channel sort of thing. I do know that I need to get out more. And what I'm saying is that I think, and not necessarily just to get out and party, but go out and, I have certain things available to me now that I didn't have before that I really do need to take advantage of and just go out and create content of any content, that is good and decent and value to me. And so, with all that said, I am taking my cheap little gear with me on this trip. I'm going to take advantage of what it is, the trip again. And it's what it is. It's my brother and my nephew and I are going. And all of a sudden, I can't think of the movie where the brothers are on this journey across India, I believe, to go see to go see their mom, and it's a ridiculous journey. Ah, damn it! It's I should look it up here real quick. I wonder if I can just type "travel to India mom movie." Watch this, and it's called The Express. It's called something The Express, right? Anyway, I'm kind of reminded of this movie, and it's while I'm not trying to aim for anything like that. I just, for whatever reason, the circumstances are very similar. But the knee-jerk reaction is to make some sort of documentary about it or do something like that, and I don't think I'm ready for that just yet. I just don't see this happening now. I mean, I think if I think about it and do something later on and actually plan something out properly, it might be better. But the Darjeeling Limited, there you go. The Darjeeling Limited. A year after their father's funeral. Oh shit! Three brothers travel across India by train in an attempt to bond with each other. Yeah, that's fucking funny. Anyway, that's the movie that reminded me of what's going on here. We're not doing the whole month-long trip, but it's something that I'm bringing my gear with. Might do some touristy things, and just whatever happens. But the thing is I'm not bringing anything expensive with me. I'm bringing the little gear that I have, and including the phone that I have, and just seeing what I can come up with. I did something very similar when we went on a trip to Boston, where I was actually pretty impressed with the footage that I got from my little point-and-shoot camera that's about 10 years old, and the cell phone stuff that I had, and along with the photographs that I took with the same point-and-shoot camera. And I was impressed enough to go, you know what, this is for travel photography and what have you, this sort of format is pretty good, and to where I might actually get another point-and-shoot camera just to have one maybe as a backup, but two that'll shoot 4K or something like that. But at the same time, not break the bank, because it doesn't seem that I need something that's very expensive to create content from that trip. If you're interested, it's up on my YouTube channel, a Boston trip from 2018, I believe. In a weird sense, I'm finding inspiration to create content different than what I'm used to, other than, portraits and simple videos, with maybe a little bit more of emotional edge to it, with basic gear that, let's just say, well, one of the reasons I came up with this idea of using basic gear is that in the end, I don't mind losing it. I plan on shooting in certain places where I'm not going to say it's unsafe to go to, but it's not like shooting in a very touristy area to where safety is basically a close to zero concern. I plan on shooting on places where people might look at me funny, and, you know, I might, quote unquote, lose my gear in one way, shape, or form. And this is gear that I do not mind losing, or having it break in a travel or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing what it is, and it's also more lightweight. You know, I'm not carrying a big old DSLR with me. I'm not carrying huge boom microphones and boom mics and big old poles. But it's good enough. It's good enough to get decent audio, way better audio that was available in 70s and 80s with those Mexican shows. Better audio that's available with what the content makers are using right now. And actually, as far as better film quality, let's just say it's better focused and better grain than was made back in the day. So everything will be clear for the most part. And yeah, that's where I'm at today. I just wanted to come on here and kind of give an episode to where we're still here and what's going to go on, and hopefully this is something that I can continue to draw inspiration from as far as traveling within a reasonable budget. Let's just say things, of course, down in Central and South of Mexico are way more within my budget than things in Chicago for me. You know, I'd love to go to the Pearl Jam concert in Chicago in September, but the plane tickets and the Airbnb or wherever I'm going to be staying at is a little out of my budget right now. So I won't be able to make those. So hopefully they'll come in closer to. It'd be easier actually if they fucking went to Mexico City. There's another band. What's funny is I just came across today. There's another band that's coming across, and it's they're called Band-Aid, and they are Bandmade. And they're a Japanese group, all-female group, and they are going to play in the United States most of the trips, but then they're going to have 1 or 2 shows in Mexico City. And of all the shows in the United States, because I don't think they're playing in LA even, it's going to be cheaper for me to go to Mexico City and see them and then come back than it is to cross and go to the States and do something there. And what's funny, you know, I don't mind going to Mexico City most of the time. I have a love-hate relationship with Mexico City. I will never truly tell most of you guys about, but one day I will, on a personal conversation, let you know why I have my love-hate relationship with Mexico City. But overall, Mexico City is a beautiful place to visit, and I highly recommend that you go in there and do all the tourist trap things, and then start venturing out and visiting all the little towns outside. All right, that's it. I thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. I'm glad you made it to the end and listen here. And again, I hope to be more frequent with these, be a better content creator here and be more consistent putting up podcasts for here. All right, thank you for listening. Have a good one and enjoy your youth.